Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge, where you'll get your daily dose of satisfaction by listening to others get what they deserve. In this episode, there's gonna be 3 stories. You'll hear about cocky business owners, a luxury sales car team, and an entitled tenant getting their just desserts. I hope you stay for the stories today and subscribe for future videos. This first story is titled, "They Put Him Down, So He Put Them Out of Business." This isn't my story, but my boss's. In the 1980s, my boss became the showrunner for the shop he worked at. He was in charge of everything. He effectively owned the place in every way, except actual ownership. He eventually got tired of running the place without having any ownership, so he talked to some banks and investors and got enough money together to buy the company. He arranged a meeting with the owners, who were very hands-off and trusted him to run everything for them, to present his proposal. Normally, a single meeting won't be enough for something like this, and he didn't expect it to be, but the owners had different ideas. He presented them the offer, and they laughed at him. They asked him why they'd sell the business to him when they make so much more money watching him run it. They laughed him out of the meeting and said they would never sell to anyone, especially an employee. Needless to say, my boss was hurt and pissed. He put in his 2 weeks notice on the spot, which they also laughed at, believing that he wouldn't leave since there was nowhere else to go, as they were top dog in the industry. Imagine their surprise when he did. A few months later, my boss had purchased a competitor business and rebranded it, but was having difficulty gaining new business to supplement the weak list of clients that the company had come with. As I said, my boss ran everything at the old company, and he's always been very hands-on. This included sales, and he personally interacted with all their customers at some point. This particular company made all employees sign a contract saying they wouldn't actively try to steal clients away should the employee leave, and my boss knew he'd be in enormous legal trouble if he did, so he couldn't go directly to his old customers as a sales call. What he did instead was call each client to apologize for his sudden departure from Company A, and told them that he had enjoyed every minute dealing with them and wished them all the best, but he will no longer be handling their calls and face-to-face meetings. He said nothing more. Naturally, considering the good relationship he'd had with these clients, they asked where he'd gone and showed interest in following him. Fast forward a few years, my boss's new company now has almost all the original clients from Company A, who tried to sue when they found out about the clients, but lost. The owners of Company A approached my boss. They tell him that Company A is going bankrupt, and unless they can find a buyer, they're gonna lose everything in the process. And would he be interested in buying the company now, maybe even using it as a second location? My boss smiles and tells them, "Why would I buy your business when I will make so much more money watching you lose it?" This next story is titled, "Luxury Car Dealership Wants to Treat Customer Like Dirt, Ends Up Washing His Car Instead." This isn't my story. It happened to my ex-classmate's dad, but it's too sweet of a story not to share. His dad's a pretty wealthy guy and owns his own construction business. My classmates always showed up in fancy clothes and cars. One day, the dad walks into a dealership. He was interested in buying a Mercedes G-Wagon. He went inside and was ignored for almost an hour while other customers were treated. Eventually, a couple of salesmen approached Dad and asked him what he's doing here. The dad starts asking about the cars. The salesmen were very dismissive and sarcastic in response to him. It's clear they aren't taking him seriously and begin to leave. Dad becomes irritated and asks what their problem was. They argue for a minute when the manager comes out and tells Dad to leave. Dad just came from work and was wearing slightly dirty jeans, boots, and a t-shirt. He's also a darker-skinned individual. Both of these factors probably made him look lower class in their eyes. Little did they know, a few weeks later, the dad ends up purchasing the G-Wagon at another Mercedes dealership. He negotiated free car washes for life at any Mercedes dealership in the area, as he traded in one of his luxury cars, and guess what? Dad ends up going to the first dealership and throws his keys on the front counter. He demanded a car wash. The same manager eventually came to object, but Dad showed him all the paperwork. He looked a bit shocked and begrudgingly got the process started. And Dad has been going back almost every day for car washes. He always cheekily smiles at the staff members with a shit-eating grin as a greeting, especially the two salesmen. They now just hang their head in shame and walk away whenever they see him. Guys, don't judge a book by its cover. I'm pretty sure a Mercedes G-Wagon starts at $125,000, and the AMG model can be upwards of $150,000. That's some pretty good commission those guys missed out on. I think. I don't know how much percentage they get, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot of money. This story's titled, Entitled Neighbor Threatens Dogs, and I Break. Years ago, my mother and I had just moved to a new dog-friendly apartment complex. We had two dogs. One was a Bichon Shih Tzu, and the other is a Terrier Poodle mix. Because of them, we were excited for the community dog park right next to the building. Also to note, our building was filled with dog owners, each with dogs ranging from small to huge. Our apartment was on the first floor in the back of the building, all the way in the corner. It was a nice private area for us with how the apartments were situated. Since one of our dogs is a terrier, he can be a bit barky when we're not home, though when we are home, we have a clicker to get his attention, which he's been trained to stop barking and come to whoever has the clicker. Due to our work hours, I was usually home in the morning, and Mom was home in the afternoon, leaving him alone for a few hours during the day. After a month of moving into our new apartment, we received a note on the door. It was from one of the neighbors. It stated, "Dear neighbor, I understand that you're new to the complex, but it's rude to allow your dog to bark. It's ruining my sleep before I go to work, and my job is extremely important. I don't care how you do it, but shut your dog up." My mom turned in the note right away to the leasing office as she wasn't sure what to do with it. That's when the office told us not to worry because he had done this to every dog owner in the building. They did ask us if we could find ways to calm him down when we're not home, so we did. We found out that it was kids that he was barking at, so we closed off that area for him when we went out and no one was home. We also started playing calming music as a way to help as well. Another week goes by, and this time, we hear a knock at the door. We go outside and we meet our angry neighbor. He explains that our dog has kept him up every day and woke him up with his hours of barking. Both of us had been home that day, and our dog had been a good boy and not been excessively barking. I still remember what he told us when I explained it. He said, "I know what I heard. If you can't control your dog, then I'm gonna call animal control and have them both taken away from you. I did it before and have no problem getting rid of your dogs too. I'm very rich and the apartment needs my money, so do something to shut your dogs up or else." After that, my mom, being a really nice person, apologized and we went back in. A few moments later, I walked out to get the mail and discovered from another neighbor that he had gone to 3 other apartments and made similar threats. After some convincing, my mom told the apartment manager what happened, and we were told not to worry, and if he did that again, to please contact them. We also found out that the apartment manager had offered him an apartment away from the noisy dogs, but he declined since the dogs were the problem and not him. However, after what he'd done, my mom began to show signs of anxiety and bought a bark collar for the dog. While I didn't like the idea, it had put her at ease to go outside of the apartment. We did make sure to only put it on when we were both not home. A month went by peacefully. Then once again, we get a knock on the door. This time, it was animal control. They had gotten an anonymous report of a dog being abused and neglected in our home. They explained that someone had said our dogs were barking because of neglect, and they were told that the person suspected us of beating it on a regular basis. My mom invited the lady inside and explained the situation, and we showed her everything we could to prevent the dogs from being taken away. The nice lady noticed how playful and happy our dogs were and figured it was just another false call, and she explained that they had gotten a few of those from an anonymous concerned neighbor for multiple other apartments in the building. The animal control lady left and telling us that if they're threatening again, to try to get it on record. This event had turned my mom into a paranoid person who became afraid to leave the house, thinking that if she did, that we would lose our beloved pups. Normally, I'm the calmest person in my family, never really letting anyone get to me, but this neighbor, oh my goodness, he had purposely done this to hurt us. So I did my research and discovered a few things that could legally help us. With the new information on certain laws and leasing terms, I formed a plan. During a weekend that my mom was visiting my aunt in a different state, I began my plan. I started it by printing out a few things and then sat outside with my phone and a speaker. I began to play a video of a dog barking really loud. I had figured out which apartment was his, thanks to a few neighbors who were also tired of being harassed. I sat there, looking across the courtyard to where his apartment was. I waited with a huge smile on my face, and as I hoped for, he stormed out and headed over to where I was. I turned off my video and turned on my recorder without him noticing. His face is red with anger as he looks at me sitting there with a smile. I said, "I'm sorry, can I help you?" And he said, I told you what I'll do to your family if you don't stop your mutt from ruining my sleep. Now, I'm gonna have them taken away from you, and you'll be kicked out for not doing as I said. I gave you a chance. I hope that when they take your dogs, that they're put down, and you and your mom live inside a cardboard box." I gave him a fake "oh dear" look and say, "So you're saying that I'm not allowed to make loud noises, including my dog's barking, between the legal hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m., and that I went against the law by doing so?" I gave him a huge smile and turned off my recorder from my phone. The neighbor's confused now, and I ask him to have a seat. I have a few things to show him. I pull out my papers and hand him the first one. It was the county's noise ordinance laws. In our county, a dog's bark was considered the same amount of sound as a loud appliance, so they can bark between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. Before he could talk, I pulled out another paper. This one states that it's against leasing terms to threaten another neighbor, and after one warning, the apartment complex had the right to revoke their lease. He looks at me with an understanding of what he'd done now. I silence him and pull out the last paper. This one was another leasing term that I found. His face, after reading this one, made him turn white. The last one talked about how it was a complete violation of leasing terms to go on another renter's property and threaten them. Those found guilty of this violation will have their lease revoked immediately and be forced to leave the apartment within a set time. The scared look on his face was priceless as I silently got up and walked back into my apartment. After he left, I called my leasing office and explained what just happened and agreed to email the recording to them right away. A week later, my mom came home with some news that she'd learned from the leasing office. The man had been evicted from his apartment and would be leaving later that week. I found out that my actions caused the other dog owners to come forward and admit what he'd been doing to all of them. After that, there was never another complaint. My mom still gets anxiety attacks once in a while, but has been getting help to ease those worries. As for me, I don't regret what I did. I just feel bad that it had to come to this. Absolutely got what he deserved. The entitled guy complaining about the dogs barking when he lives in an apartment that allows dogs. And now, he may be the one living in a cardboard box. I also love the fact that he said that he's rich and that the apartment needs his money. No, they don't, sir. A new tenant will take his apartment in less than a month. I can guarantee that. And that's it for this episode of r/ProRevenge. If you guys enjoyed the 3 stories today, be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because I upload videos almost every day. See you guys in the next one.